everyone. Let's get the final business and market day in the month of July together. Thank you very much for coming with us on the show today. The next 1 hour, we welcome you to Business Morning, live from Channels Global headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria's financial capital. I am Boston Amafaye. Let's get this Wednesday business underway, shall we? And we're starting from Abuja, where the President Buhari's new cabinet, which are all cleared yesterday, 43 of them, will be taking their office in the new month of August as we wrap up July today, 6 months after the February general elections and the second term inauguration of President Buhari in the month of May. So, we advise everyone to keep their eyes on who will be appointed as heads of these critical economic positions in President Buhari's second and final cabinet makeup. We call it the first 11 list. Take a look at it. Mr. President continued to talk about the 3 pillars of his administration: economy, anti-corruption, and insecurity. Those are the 3 main pillars, and these offices will technically be taking care, or will be in charge of those 3. So what are the first 11? The Ministry of Finance is very key. Who becomes the new finance minister? Although the last finance minister got a reappointment, but of course, we don't know whether Mr. President will retain Zainab as the head of the Ministry of Finance. That remains to be seen if there's going to be a bit of a rejig there. We're also looking who becomes the Minister of the Budget and National Planning Ministry. Another very important part of the first 11 is the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. And of course, you add agriculture, which is very key in terms of what the government's been spending and the outlook on job creation and food sustainability. Then you have the Ministry of Mines and Steel, which basically speaks to mineral resources as the government continues to work around the revamping of Ajaokuta Steel and getting Nigeria to diversify a little bit away from oil into mineral resources. So many still will be very critical. What about power works and housing? Yes, some folks have their eyes on the immediate past minister in charge of that jumbo cabinet, former Lagos State Governor, Obatode Raji Fashola. So that's one key economic portfolio you need to keep your eyes on. Then we have the transport minister, where you have the railroad, what they call the Bet and Road Initiative of the administration. That's very critical. We have a number of airport terminals which had been holding for a couple of years to put together. We have a lot of road infrastructure. We have road, rail, and all of that. So transportation is very key. Part of the logistics, that is part of the problems we're trying to fix to get ourselves ready for the new AFCFTA. So keep your eyes on that. Very critical. Then we have the Ministry of Defense. Defense is very critical in helping us to resolve the problem of insecurity and the attendant consequences, both unintended particular, when it comes to food sustainability, economy, and logistics required for food production, among other things. Then you have water resources. This is also very key as we bring water into the conversation of the economy. We need water resources to help our drive for industrialization. Then, of course, the Ministry of Justice. We need to have good governance, we need to have rule of law, and we need to have speedy justice to deal with some of the problems we have in corruption, as well as legal issues around corporate governance. And we need good health, don't we? Yes, health is wealth. So the Ministry of Health comes under our first 11 in terms of those who should be making the cabinet. So we'll keep our eyes on this when the Mr. President announced who takes what office out of those 45 individuals that have been screened and cleared to go and meet Mr. President for their portfolio and all of that. We'll keep an eye on all of this from Thursday. Technically, the first cabinet meeting will be taking place with all these individuals in the next couple of days. Meantime, the government is going after those who are owing the Asset Management Corporation, AMCON, basically. So the government raised a new task force to go after and recover the sum of 5 trillion naira that you've read in the news old Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria. Of course, AMCON is the bad bank, or to call the laundry bank, which was set up at the end of just about 10 years ago, during the period of the banking sector cleansing under the administration of the Lamido Sanusi, His Royal Highness, now the Emir of Kano at the Central Bank of Nigeria. So it was the one that set up the AMCON and gave it a mandate. Now, AMCON's bad debt's been increasing. It's taking more than the bad loans in the banking sector and going into aviation, oil and gas, and a few others. So AMCON is now heavily burdened. So yesterday, the government says, look, we're setting up a new task force. So this crack team will be in charge. Who's going to be in charge? Those are the 5 agencies. Ministry of Justice, of course, is a ministry standing on its own. AMCON will lead the recovery exercise, what they call the new squad. SEL, the sales team that should go after these individuals owing 5 trillion naira. AMCON is there. EFCC will support AMCON, as well as the ICPC, that's the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission. Then you have the NFIU, the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, and of course, the Ministry of Justice, to be sure that everyone who is owing is brought to justice. According to the head of media and publicity for the Vice President, Laluaka, the new team will develop and implement new strategies as the federal government is determined, according to him, to recover the money speedily. 5 trillion naira. Laluaka went to say that we need a small team to look at the next steps that we need to take, especially the criminal aspect, forfeiture, and all of that. So it says why those agencies, AFCC and ICPC, are there, also look at the area of a criminal aspect if any is involved in those liabilities or debt being owed, forfeiture, and all of that. All that will be the terms of reference for the new team. Okay, so it's a big day at the global marketplace. If you're on Market Street, I'm sure you already know that. The U.S. Federal Open Markets Committee, or the FOMC, is deciding today on interest rate. All eyes on Jerome Powell's, the Fed chief, briefing later today with the outlook on at least 0.25% cut in the Fed fund rate, the first since the end of the global economic crisis of 2008. It's a very big day across global marketplace. Everyone's keeping an eye on the FOMC, that's the U.S. Open Market Committee. United Capital, which is an investment bank here in Nigeria, says it's expected Nigeria's fixed income market in the second half of this year to be a play of demand-side factors, both global and local and monetary policies, and supply-side factors of local financing needs. United Capital says the tone of global central banks and the action of their monetary authorities, of course, number one is the U.S. Fed, will in a long way set the pace of the demand for emerging markets assets in the second half of this year. Specifically in Nigeria, United Capital says, we believe the lack of economic policy reforms will continue to scare the foreign portfolio investors off equities, and you've seen all of that yesterday, while policy stability and a double-digit interest rate will promote further appetite for fixed income instruments. So what's the outlook for second half 2019 Nigeria fixed income space? United Capital says dovish rhetoric from the global market is expected to increase a more accommodative CBN in second half of 2019, especially as it aims to boost overall economic growth. So that's a bit of what we have for you in the news this morning. Part of this will be fleshed up later on the program with Temple Ashaju and one of our guests tuning in from FMDQ Exchange Place.